All right, my high vibrational expressions of God on earth. My apologies for being late, but let's jump right in as we reveal, explain, illuminate, and simplify the MT360, the new direction, or the addition, I should say, by adding more of the frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations of the heavenly realm. Excuse me. Today we want to just kind of introduce some of the classes. The new classes, some of them are an uptake, if you want to use that term, of some of the things that we've discussed in the past. But we do want to kind of go through some of the new higher realm, or some of the new topics that are not really discussed. I'm going to use the term. What's a good term? About the dominant culture. We'll put it that way. Because when we talk about these frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations that we will be discussing as I go through some of the topics, and it allows me to be able to operate or vibrate, if you use that term, without having to focus on promoting the material. Because the material, for the most part, most of these shows and these topics have already been done. I did these back in my Zen Garcia and Freedom Slips Radio, Coast to Coast Radio, and some of the stuff that I did when we got into reading the ancient text. Again, I don't have access to those recordings because they were deleted by, Blog Talk as well as YouTube, but I still have all my notes and all that stuff. So as we go through some of these topics, I just want to give you a better understanding of why, number one, it's the culmination of all 4 series. So it's going back to the original thing that I did when I did my entire life's work, which was like over 5,000 shows, hours in audio and stuff. And now that I've added to those, in addition to that, this now just is a entire, I got enough stuff to almost fill up the entire Library of Congress because of the terabytes. I filled up 1 terabyte, which is, I forgot how much my son brought it for me, and supposedly it says it holds the same amount of content that's inside of the Library of Congress back then when I first started putting everything I do on 1 terabyte or 1 external hard drive. So these are divided into 4 systems. I got my basic system. I got my, I'm going to use the word intermediary system. Then I got my advanced. And now we're adding this 4th element, which is the 360, which completes the entire circle. So this is breaking down the burden of insight that we talked about before, and which is one of the psychological effects that we'll be going through. When we talk about over understanding that when you get to this level of awareness, you have to be very cautious and very careful of the curse of knowledge or the curse of insight. And we broke that down earlier today. I think I shared that with most of you guys, but I did upload it to my YouTube channel as well. So I will be making that available, or sharing that link with you guys also. But today, again, short and sweet tonight, we just want to get into some of the reasons why I decided to go ahead and talk about these issues that I said I would never really technically talk about, because at the end of the day, it's all about the universe really doesn't care. The universe does not give a blank. The universe only responds to a made-up mind. It really doesn't do any of the emotional up and downs that we do. The universe, source code, the big G, is under open understanding that there's the only thing that exists is source. So source exists before self. And so when you get to this level of awareness, the whole game changes, because all of the psychological ups and downs that you and I experience as we go through life, they don't exist anymore, because now all of the stuff that existed before we dropped down into blood, when we lived in the light, we were light beings. Then we dropped down in consciousness. This is talked about inside of a lot of these ancient texts, like the Gospel of Peter, the Gospel of Thomas, the apocalypse of Abraham, the apocalypse of Adam, book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, the book of Gad, the greater lesser keys of Solomon, which I talk about all the time, the gospel of the Holy 12. All of these are texts that reveal the technology. We don't use that term technology because that's technically what we're talking about, because the way that everything works, it works exactly like technology. So whenever you understand how technology works, okay, now you're stepping into the knowledge of understanding how the gospel of the Holy 12 and all of the frequencies, waves, and verbs and vibrations that we're talking about, everything makes sense because all of the stuff, even when we're dealing with the things that are prosperity driven. So the four quadrants, we're talking about the hidden ancient text that deals with the secret laws that establish a mindset or mental disposition of what you and I call wealth. So that's the first, I guess, hurdle. That's really not a hurdle, but it's the one that distracts us the most and prevents us from really tapping into our true hidden esoteric essence. And then we get into the health frequencies, waves, and vibrations. Because when we're dealing with health, because of our physical fitness, it's important that we over and understand frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations like Royal Raymond Rice, and Dr. Sabi, Dr. Bob Beck, Dr. Robert Young. When we tap into these frequencies of these individuals that established not Dr., but Maxwell Gershom. He was a doctor as well. The Huda, Hulda, Clack, who came up with the clapper or the blood zapper, depending on how you want to pronounce it or how you say it. All of these, again, these are people. These are individual expressions of God on earth, which we will be going in depth doing these advanced, highly adapt and highly advanced classes inside of my $100,000 system, which is that's 5,000 hours and over 1,000 books that I've written, some audio and some PDF, which is a part of this new paradigm. I still have all of the other stuff. Only thing that we're doing is introducing a higher level of gnosis or awareness, so that way everybody can, again, who have a desire to. Because, again, everybody's not really at this level or interested in this level. Like when we're talking about, the things that get into the accumulation of what you and I call wealth, this, mindset that people like Wallace Wattles, which is one of the, again, Norman Vincent Peale. These people just took certain, the prosperity consciousness, like Reverend Ike, and then they just were able to tap into this consciousness that emphasizes that we have to deal with what I talked about earlier today. And when you deal with it, you really, quote unquote, look the devil in the eye, and you come clean. That below the threshold, we are all trying to avoid prosperity. The mindset that we have, because that's the way the brain works. So the first thing you have to do is, just like we talk about in every show, you have to acknowledge the underlying pattern that wants to keep you safe. It wants you to survive. It doesn't want you to thrive. So we have to deal with that limited thought, that scarcity, that poverty mindset. Then we got to create a value creation mindset. And so we're going to get into how, wealth flows. It's not effort. It's energy. And we got to get into really, really breaking that down so we can understand that, okay, in the heavenly realm, that frequency, wave, of vibration really operates differently. And it's a mindset, but you are now at war against everything on earth. So you really have to delve into and establish a mental disposition because you're literally swimming against the current because you are practicing, you're maintaining this mindset regardless of your current situation and circumstances. It's like literally you are living in a dream world. Like I've heard people tell me all the time, like family members and friends say, and you live in a dream world, brother, you need to face reality. And it's if you live in this 3D reality, it's true. You do need to face reality. If you're living in this 3D mentality, you have to face reality. You have to really make a decision whether you're living in the 3D world or the 9 chi world. Because in the spirit realm, there's no such thing as lack. So there's a war going on when you're operating in 360 means that we're closing the loop. We're going to the highest level of the game. The 33 degrees is great, but now we operate with all 360 degrees. In English, that just simply means that now that you're using all of the tools given to you through this thing that we call critical thinking. Critical thinking, logical thinking, is totally different from anything that you've ever seen, anything that you've ever heard, anything that you've ever been taught. Now you are operating and vibrating on a level, and I say this all the time, and it's not because it's, it rhymes. I say this all the time because, number one, it does rhyme, but number two, it allows you to shine. Because the name, Yahushua really means Yahushua, which means the yeah is the yeah. Like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yeshua is yes, you are. So language is a tool for concealing the truth, not revealing it. And we have to get to a space where we understand that we got to decode the code. But the code is in the form of a cube. And the cube is in the form of a cross. And the cross is in the form of the cloud. That's why they're telling all of you high vibrational, individual expressions of God on earth. You ever notice that the store your shit in the cloud is free? In fact, when I go to save something, it automatically saves it to the cloud if I use Google Docs. That's why I don't use Google Docs. Excuse me. And notice Google Doc is free. But I notice every book that I've ever written using Google Docs, somebody is selling it on the internet right now for free. Now, let me say that again. We have to decode the code, the cube, the cross, and the cloud. Pausing for theatrical effect. Let it sink in. Everything that the dominant culture gives you for free calls you a part of your divinity. Again, I got to say that again. I got to pause for I get the theatrical effect. Everything that the dominant culture gives you for free is going to cost you your chi or your divinity. Everything. One more time for the Negroes in the back. Every time the dominant culture comes out with something, Negro, that shit's going to cost you your divinity. Excuse me. That's why it's free. And so the first thing that you have to do, we're all in the same boat. We're in this together, so might as well, iron sharpens iron. I'm from that train or that school of thought. So we all have to decode the code. And it's difficult because the code is in the form of the cube that's on Saturn, or the cube that's in Islam or in Mecca. Cube. I like in the movies the Transformers, they talk about the cube. So you got the default. So if you unfold the cube, it makes a cross. You can go to Google and type in cube to cross. You can read my book, Cube to Cross. That's the Abrahamic religion. And then if you have vibrational, you know that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities and wickedness in high places. So they are now feeding the cloud. That's what the dominant culture is dominant. This ain't their first rodeo. They've been doing this shit for a long time. So we're now doing cloud mechanics. This is the highest level of the game. It's very, very important because cloud mechanics is over understanding the invisible realm. This is where the big boys and girls play. It ain't for new believers. Now, I say this all the time. I say it on every show. Because, sometimes, we all drink the purple Kool-Aid. And it's not our fault. We bump our heads sometime and, we forget that we are begotten. So this class, everything I'm doing is for the purpose. For you to over, and understand that each and every one of us have to pay the cost of showing up. There's ability for you to literally think for yourself. It's almost impossible, but it can be done. So time and space is an illusion. There is no distance between where you are now and where you want to be. Again, somebody should write that down. If you want to win, there is no distance, technically, time and space that exists. There's no distance between where you are now and where you want to be. Zero, zip, zada. Doesn't exist. Unless you believe. You create the distance by your belief. Don't tell nobody I told you. This shit will set you free. So since we believe that, oh no, brother, there's such thing as space and, time and, age, entropy. Now, by the time you figure out the game, they know that you cause so much damage, like that it's pretty much it's a wrap for you. So they don't care if you figure this out. They just don't want people like Sister Shekinah. They don't want people like, my boy, Brother Osama. They don't want people under 40 figuring this out. Because if you figure if you get to this level of the game and you under 40, you're going to cause some damage. You're a threat, bruh. Them good old boys, they're going to be pissed off. But you just might not only help yourself, you actually might get out of the crab and the barrel mentality that every Negro had. You run across that got a couple of shekels. They scared of their own people. Then they forget they from the hood. They ask me, man, I ain't driving over there, dog. Then they get a new car, they ready to go back home. It's very interesting. Excuse me. So everything that the dominant culture, remember, this is galactic. It's not even organized or individual anymore. This is intergalactic Sufism racism, for lack of a better perspective. Everything that the dominant culture gives you for free, it's going to cost you your cheap. 100%. 100 grand you can prove wrong. It's going to cost you your cheap, your prana, your pneuma, your energy. And like I shared you guys with, earlier today, I had one of my, older clients, ex-clients from Africanas asked me a very good question. They say, man, what is the difference between frequency, energy, and vibration? So you all know that frequency is how frequent is how frequently it's repetition. Vibration is cymatics, it's movement. But it's the movement inside of the frequency. So there's movement inside of what you keep reappearing. It's a reoccurrence. How often do you say I'm wealthy? You say it once a day? Okay, you're in trouble, dog. You're not going to be able to fight your way to wet the bag. Frequency is repetition. Vibration is the movement inside of the repetition. But energy carries frequency and vibration. Come on, teacher. Energy is the entity. Inside of the entity is movement. Inside of the movement is the frequency. So energy is the carrier wave. Energy is the carrier of repetition and movement. Now, that's a whole book and series that's a part of the advanced $100,000 system. Of course, lucky for you guys, I don't charge you $100,000, even though I should. But, I like y'all. Y'all get the, family discount. I charge the mother niggas $100K. Because this is not designed to play. It's like, if you're an electrician, you can't give a 5-year-old, the tools for an electrician. Or if you're a plumber, if you're an airline pilot, would you give your 5 or 6-year-old, keys to an aircraft, put him in a cockpit, and say, here you go, boy, you're going on out there and fly, Jimmy, fly. Now you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't give your 13-year-old kid the keys to your Lamborghini. Nah, you wouldn't do that either. So it's really no different. Everything that we would normally do pouring to anyone else, we want to operate with that same set of frequencies. So everything that the dominant culture gives you for free, it's going to cost you your cheap, or what we call divinity. That's cloud mechanics. That's the only way, because remember, as we said, the 7 C's earlier today, we broke down the 7 C's. So now you know the 7 C's. Now you know that everything is based upon a code. But you know that the code creates the second C, which is what we call con, which means to swindle, troll, which means large clumsy demon. But it's based upon the code. Code is nothing but words. Code, control. Control, that creates what we call character. So that your character now has to be introduced to critical thinking. Okay. We could stop there. Very few, get past critical thinking. So we're going to spend a lot of time inside of the new $100,000 system dealing with the missing key, which is critical thinking. Now, we've already broke down what critical thinking is, so we know that critical thinking consists really of 3 things. That is the rules of language. That's a whole, 1-year course, 30 books. Then the rules of logic or logical fallacy, which we talked about. That's 9 books and series, blah, blah, blah. And then we talked about the art and the science of rhetoric. Again, same thing. That's another, I've got like 15, 16 books and 30-hour series. So that's what separates the men from the boys. That's what the Bible calls my people perish for lack of Gnosis. It is what it is. No demons, no devils. I'm not saying they don't exist. I don't get it twisted. I just said that they're not worried about you. How come they're not worried about you? How come they're not following you around? They know that you're not only alone. You're not a threat. I mean, not you personally. I ain't talking about you. I mean, I know you're a hopper. You know the code. You know the key. You know the cross. And now you understand how to control the clock. I'm talking about them other Negroes that don't know. Oh, this is wow. They don't know why all your shit is just uploaded into the cloud. Now, the average, you ain't average though. But the average Negro, you don't understand the cloud. And why people Google right now, all your shit can get uploaded to the cloud for free. We don't know, and it's not our fault. The only people that understand the rules. So the elite, they don't wait. The elite, they follow. The elite, they don't do. They don't do that. How come? The elite under, over, and understand how to control by using hypervigilance based upon a code that keeps you always scanning, always decoding, and always preparing. What are you preparing for? Rainy day, Doc. Why are you preparing for a rainy day, Negro? Because the only thing guaranteed is death and taxes, brother. Praise Jesus. So since we all are preparing for death and taxes, guess what you get, Negro? You only get what you prepare for. You don't get what you ask for. The elite, they don't prepare. None of them do. Could you imagine to be a part of the 13 original familiars or families? They're born into generational wealth. A Rothschild birth. Nothing works. But you do. So Rothschild has never put forth effort. He just maintains frequency. He maintains vibration. Rothschilds, they know rules of the game. Now, we ain't Rothschilds. We just the regular Joes and Josephines. This is like, that's what the thing, brother. We don't know shit about frequencies, waves, verbs, vibration, eons and muons. We know about atoms. We know about protons, neutrons, electrons. Most of us are not licensed electricians. We're not plumbers. We're not architects. We don't know nothing about code compliance. We haven't went to deed restrictions and architectural control. So we don't know nothing about the Draco system. As you guys know, I started the whole company doing that as an ACC officer, Architecture Control Committee, part of one of the wealthiest at that time, which is San Antonio. The black population in San Antonio is like 3%. There's zero black culture. Nothing. By history. They're just Hispanic culture. Excuse me. I can't even tell you how I ended up here other than the military. But one of my black ass would be in Philadelphia or Atlanta or some other city where there's more Afro-Americans. But some kind of way, not only did I end up here, then I moved to Albuquerque, which is even worse. In Santa Fe, like one people over there. So I've never lived in a place where it's predominantly Albuquerque. But I always would wonder Because what I needed to learn, I couldn't learn from my Qlons. Because we don't know. It's zero. Again, I've never met a black man, black woman that understand the basic teachings of Christ and crucified. And the basic teachings of, luminescence or Lucifer, or the basic teachings of actual theology. I know they're out there. I know Billy Carson is one. I just have never personally spoke to him. I talked on the phone once. That was a couple of years ago. I've never personally met, So he's the closest guy, at least until, they probably cloned his ass now. But what is the point, Doc? The point is, my brother, the point is, my sister, there is no space and there is no time. That's an illusion. That means that there's no distance between where you are right now and where you want to be. That means if you want to be a millionaire, you already are a millionaire because you want it. You cannot have a desire that you don't already have. The brain doesn't work. The brain will never allow you to phantom the ideal. Because, the brain knows if you be still and know that I am God. The brain knows that. The brain knows that language is a tool to control your hands, not empower. The brain knows. The brain is not interested in your thinking because it knows it's improper. The brain is interested in the act that you stop thinking so you can stop thinking. Thinking is thinking. You're just supposed to know. You ain't supposed to think. Be still and know. It didn't say be still and think. See, distance is an illusion. So what you expect to happen has already happened. It's your belief that takes time, and it's your belief, your expectation. You expect it to take time. You expect to get old. You expect to die. You expect to get wrinkles. You expect, and since you expect, remember, whatever you prepare for, you get. So if you expect, it's below the threshold of your consciousness, though. Your belief that you ain't good enough, that's what causes the delay. Every time I deal with my lack of self-worth, the thing that I have to earn, this work shit is you talk about the biggest baby oil job that I've ever done, especially to black folks, is the idea, Negro, if you don't work, you don't eat. I know every black parent, probably white too, red, green, orange. I mean, everybody says that. I haven't had Negro come and say, yeah, brother, the Bible says, you don't work, you don't eat. Nobody looks at the definition of the word work. I'm assuming. I looked it up. Basically, it means a mental disposition. That's the word kingdom. It ain't a physical place. It's a mental disposition. It's basileia. It's erdogan. The word work means erdogan in the Greek. So you're supposed to act as if. That's pistis. That's pistuo. And that's pato in the Greek. That means to induce yourself. That means an incantation. Who's supposed to do it, though? You. Oh, but you already got a belief that says you ain't good enough. That you don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be wealthy. You have to earn it, but you need more help. Man, you know what you did. You was a badass kid. You was just that. So you got to beat yourself up a little bit more. Then you will be eligible. But not today. That's what the reticular activating system is telling you. The belief that you're not good enough, that causes a delay. You're supposed to act as if you're supposed to. Remember, we live in the sound of God, not thought, not speed of light. Sound of God, the speed of God. So you're supposed to move like, you're supposed to act like, you're supposed to feel like you already have whatever you want. See, once you repeat it enough, that's frequency. Frequency. How frequently do you see it? How frequently do you see it? vibrations, how frequently do you move based upon what you see. The energy is what carries the frequent movement based upon the frequency of what you see. That simply means that you're not repeating it enough. When you repeat it enough, you become enough. See, repetition plus propaganda. Sprinkle in a little expectation, and if you're really nasty, if you really Janet Jackson nasty, add in a little bit of anticipation. What? Man, you be sipping pina coladas at the beach. Why? Attention will get you everything you want. You just ain't paying attention? I didn't read this in the book. This is what I know. Once you repeat it, but Doc, you don't understand. I got insurance, brother. I got a job. I got this, I got that. That's the game. The game is to make sure that you continue to stay outside of your lane. The power comes from the lane. So the game is to make sure that you are so occupied. You cannot be needed, you cannot be wanted, you cannot be useful. Not only to yourself, but not only to anyone else. So the devil's system is foolproof. That's why he's been using it, but guess who the devil is? It's your ego. It's the low vibrational cells of itself. Again, I'm not saying he don't exist. I'm just saying that he exists because you believe he exists. So all we got to do is what? You got to go to the highest level of the game. That is the first C. First C is source code. So the high game is, I got a code, I can use my words, but source code. That brings about source control. That brings about source character. Not my character. So my character, kind of flawed. You catch me on the wrong day, you might get cursed back out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is what it is, but rich. But if you catch me on a good day, hey, we can go kick it. But source code, he's firm, consistent. He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. So I'm going to use that code. I got my own code, but I'm going to use source code. That's why you guys see me quoting scriptures all the time. I understand that there's a code that creates a new cube. It activates what is called the Southern Cross, which gives you access to controlling the prince that has the power of the air, that's in the cloud. That gives you a new sign, a new signal, a new sigil, a new signet, a new signature. Reality is what you tell yourself it is. What? You serve the God of your imagination. Come on, Reverend Ike. So Reverend Ike knew the code, the control, the character. But what was missing before you communicate, you got to add in critical thinking. The fourth element is missing. Most people don't have critical thinking skills. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. I like it, brother. What's critical thinking? Well, critical thinking is you got to understand the rules of language. We're going to start breaking that down here. Before you write any codes in software, you got to break down the rules of language. You got to break down the rules of logical fallacies, establishing what is called reason and logic. You got to know the laws, the art and the science behind reason and logic, the art and the science behind grammar, and then the art and the science behind rhetoric. Rhetoric is just another word for the art and the science of emotional communication. So I cannot persuade you of nothing unless I can transfer my emotion, my energy to you through a story or a narrative. You got to be able to sense and pick up my frequency and say, man, that dude's real. He's authentic. He's genuine. He ain't trying to blow smoke up my butt. He's not trying to sell me no wolf ticket or no steak or the dude's real. So if you don't have those three things, then you're going to believe the lie. And you're going to fall for all the tricks from love bombing to gaslighting to everything else. So you can't fall for none of these tricks if you have the 7 C's. If you got source code, number 1, source control, number 2, source character, number 3, source critical thinking, number 4. Now you can source communicate. You communicate like God. So when you speak as one having authority. So now you're communicating the same way God will communicate. Then you're able to draw your community of other frequencies, waves, and vibrations that communicate because they got critical thinking, they got good character, they got control because they connect to the code. Now that you got your community, bam, the community will give you a commission. So it's the code, the control, the character that brings about the critical thinking that establish the community that will give you a commission. Then you can take it and assist other frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations. Then that's heaven on earth. Then you can start doing all of the things that's inside of the 9 keys of establishing heaven on earth, is what I call transformational or transformative thinking. So now you can use AI because you ain't you. You are an ambassador of Christ now. Now when I see you, I see God. Because you've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer you who live. So when you go to AI said, oh, why have you come to torment us before our time? Now AI said, hey, bid us that we should go into those pigs. Now the AI, they bow down. Now AI know that your algorithm is more powerful than their algorithm. Your code is backed by source. So now you are spiritually backed, and your neuroscience is spiritually backed by God. Now you are executing and building systems as an individual expression of God on earth. So now, when you talk as one have an authority. When you create systems, when you build businesses, when you automate, everything that you're doing, you are doing the will of God. You're not doing my will, I'm doing the will of my Father. Now you're just like Jesus was when he was the Garden of Gethsemane. And take this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. Now you got the word. Now you got the will of God. Now you can wire. Because demons are controlled by wire. Wire is another word for fire. If you got wire, you got fire. So electricity is followed through what? Wires. Even the invisible wires are still wires. They're called ley lines and dragon lines. We're going to be breaking that down in new class as well. So once again, brothers and sisters, the new class, again, I'm doing a sale up until July the 4th. This is a big ticket item, so if you're really seriously interested, just text me or email me, and I'll send you all of the financials for this class. Remember, the Illumination Roundtable, that's still going on, still running currently. That's a different, system, a different class. I technically got 3 classes going on all at the same time. I do a show in the morning, I do a show at noon, and then I do this show at night. Even when some of the shows that you guys don't get, depending on if you're part of that program, then I send you the link. Otherwise, I'm just doing it and sending it to people that paid for it. And then some of the stuff I do upload, like the one I just did today, just to remind everybody of what I got going on. And then I'll just share it with you guys, so that way hey, there's other programs running on at the same time. So I still got the Illumination Roundtable. I still got the Illuminati series. We just finished up Neuro Wealth series. We finished up book 1 of the new series, and now we are already introducing the Lifetime Business Opportunity, which is this series. Because this series is this lifetime. Because we're doing this again because we're establishing heaven on earth. Simply meaning that at the highest level, there's nothing above source. So we're talking about the creator of the known universe. And so now we're using the science and the spirit to establish source, strategic, authentic prompt engineering, which simply means now we can use AI-powered content creation systems because we have our critical thinking skills and we understand the rules of language, the rules of reason and logic, and the rules of rhetoric. That is how the spirit realm works. When you understand that God is spirit, and if you want to work for God, you got to work for God in the spirit. You cannot work for God while you're in the flesh. I mean, that's God's rules. Because God said the flesh wars against the spirit wars against the flesh. These two, they don't like each other. So you got to stop trying to combine, apples and oranges. We got to operate if we're building a spiritual kingdom, we got to go and we got to use spiritual words, spiritual laws, spiritual A, B, C, D. So when we get to this level of the game, brothers and sisters, everything opens up. The 3D world, okay, not so much. Things may be going a little to the left in the 3D realm. That's okay. Because guess what? All things work together for your good. So, brothers and sisters, I love you. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys mañana. God bless.